Hello everybody and welcome to this demonstration on preparing Poison Center notifications using the Dataset view in Euclid. My name is Heidi Rasikari and I work in the Poison Center team at ECHA. In this demonstration, I will show you how to prepare notifications, specifically using the customized Dataset view. You can either watch this as a standalone demonstration, or you can choose a more hands-on approach and work through the provided instructions at a time and pace that suits you. This demonstration is bookmarked so that you can easily navigate to certain sections whenever you need. The 4 parts that I will cover today are how to create a substance dataset, how to create a mixture-in-mixture dataset, and how to create a dataset for the final mixture and its associated products. In the last part of the demonstration, we will take a look at how to validate the information, create a dossier, and prepare a simple update. If you would like to follow the exercises on your own workstation, you will need either Euclid 6 downloaded from the Euclid website, or if you have an active cloud subscription, you can choose to work online. If you are working online, you are advised to work in the Euclid Cloud trial service to avoid mixing test data with production data. Prior to watching this demonstration, I also encourage you to take a look at the IT solution presentation by my colleague Claudia Raimondo. There you will find a lot more background information about the Dataset view mode, as well as the new submission testing environment now available. We have provided a set of instructions to accompany this demonstration, and they are available from the events page. Of course, if you have any questions, please submit them via the ECHA help desk and we will ensure as swift as reply as possible. So let's get started with today's demonstration. So right now, I'm logging into our testing environment to use the ECHA Cloud services to prepare my test dossier. As I mentioned earlier, I suggest you work in the Euclid Cloud trial service. Also, I must point out here that the data which I will use throughout this demonstration is not representative of real data. Rather, it's used to support the processes I will demonstrate. Now I arrive at the dashboard. I will be using the substances and the mixtures entities from which I will create the respective datasets and final dossier from. We'll start with substances. You can see here the listing of all the substance datasets I've previously made. In this demonstration, I will create 4 new datasets which will serve to collect information about the identity and classification of the substance. You can refer to the instructions for more information about each substance, but in short, substance number 1 will be a non-classified perfume and a generic product identifier, or GPI. Substance number 2 is a classified substance, and substances number 3 and 4 are 2 of the known substances of our mixture-in-mixture component. So now I will begin by demonstrating how to create a substance dataset for substance number 1, which is my GPI perfume. I first want to create a new substance dataset. I give it a name. I create and open. As you can see here, there are a lot of different documents relating to substance information, but I only want to see those that are relevant for Poison Centre notifications. So I go to the submission type and customize the view by selecting CLP Poison Centre Notification Substance Information. Now I see only two sections, the identity of the substance and the classification and labelling. In most cases, the substance dataset must be linked to a reference substance, which provides that information on the substance identity. That said, GPI declaration can only be made under certain conditions, and when these conditions are fulfilled, linking to a reference substance is not mandatory. I will show you how to do that in the next section. But for now, I'll move on to the classification and labelling. Our GPI substance is not classified for any hazards, and to provide this information, I need to add a new document and select Not Classified. I save my work and go back to the substances list. Note that the labelling information is not required for substances, but in any case, such information can always be voluntarily provided. So here in the substances list, you can see the dataset that I have just created. You can, of course, always delete a substance dataset by clicking on the three buttons. It is also possible to make a cloned copy of a dataset. And if you want to modify any of the entries, you can do so by opening the dataset again. Moving along to the next substance, again, I want to create a new substance dataset. I enter a name, create, and open. Next, I customize the view accordingly. CLP Poison Centre Notification Substance Information. Now I am required to link the dataset to a reference substance. I can do this by clicking on the blue hyperlinked substance name. Next, I click on Reference Substance, and I can either make a selection from the available list of reference substances or create a new one. I will now demonstrate how to create a new reference substance and enter identity information manually using UPAC nomenclature. I need to give the reference substance a name. And in the UPAC field, I can add my information accordingly. I press Save and go back. Now I need to enter the classification information. I create a new document. And make an example selection. Then I save and return back. Now I can see the second substance that I have just created. Now I want to create the last two datasets for substances number 3 and 4, which are the substance components of my mixture in mixture. So again, I create a new substance and give it a name. Click Create and Open and customize accordingly. Substance information. In this example, I will demonstrate how to create a new reference substance by making a selection from the EC inventory. I go into the substance identity document, and in the reference substance section, I click Create and give my reference substance a name. In the inventory number field, I can enter the EC number of the substance I am looking for. I make the selection and save. Now I have linked a reference substance to substance number 3. This substance is classified, so I will now go back and add that classification information. I create a new document and select an example set of physical and health hazards. Providing the environmental hazards is not mandatory, but of course can always be added if preferred for completeness. As I mentioned before, the labeling information is not required for substances, though they can always be added. I will return to the labeling section later when I completed the mixture product information. Now that I've added the classification information, I can save and return back to the substances list. And now I will create the final substance dataset. Again, I go to New Substance, provide a name, and customize in the same way as I have done for the other substances. This time, I would like to demonstrate how to link to a reference substance downloaded from the Euclid website. From the reference substance section of the website, I make a search with the EC number identifier. In this example, I use water. I download the file and then I import it to the dashboard. So now when I go back to the reference substance list, I can then link substance number 4 to the water reference substance. You can always open the downloaded reference substance and see a more complete set of information about the identification. Next, I need to indicate that this substance is not classified. In a new document, I click on the Not Classified checkbox and save my work. So back in the substances list, you can now see the 4 completed substance datasets. And now I will continue to the second part of this demonstration on how to create and complete a mixture-in-mixture dataset. In this part of the demonstration, I will look at how to create a dataset for a mixture-in-mixture, or MIM for short. From the main dashboard, I go to the Mixtures listing area. I now want to create a new MIM dataset and give it a name. I create and open. This time, I customize using CLP Poison Center Notification Mixture in Mixture. You will see a section for the MIM identity, MIM composition, MIM UFI and suppliers, classification and labeling, and MIM safety data sheets. Let's start with the mixture-in-mixture identity. This section allows you to add additional information about the MIM, such as other identifiers, or perhaps any contact persons. Note, none of this information, though, is mandatorily required. The next section concerns the MIM composition. I click on New Item, create a new document, then New Item, and in the Name field, I would now like to indicate the substance components of the MIM. I select Substance, and select substance number 3. I now would like to provide the concentration of that substance in the MIM. Function is not required, but can always be added voluntarily. Now I can add the second substance of the MIM. Again, I select Substance and link to substance number 4. This time I will indicate the concentration as a range. I also need to include the operators. I save the work and go back to complete the next section on the UFI. My supplier has informed me that the MIM UFI has been notified in all EU member states. To include that UFI, I create a new document and select New Item. In the UFI ID field, I can add the information from the supplier. I save and go back to complete the next section. To enter any supplier details, I need to create a new supplier document. And in the Name field, I press Select. And I can make a selection from some contact details that I have previously encoded before, or I can create a new one. I have already provided this information, so I can select MIM supplier and save. Similarly, as we entered the classification information for the substances, I will also enter the classification information for the mixture in mixture. As an example only, I will enter the following hazard categories. I save my work and return back to the mixture dataset. The next and final section is about the MIM safety datasheets. Attaching a safety datasheet is not required information. However, I will demonstrate how to do so. I select New Document and add a new item. I can upload a file. And specify the country and the language. It is possible to add multiple SDS items. Now I have completed a dataset for the mixture in mixture component and will move to the next part of the demonstration, how to prepare a dataset for the final mixture. So let's look at how to create a dataset for the final mixture and of course the associated products. From the dashboard, I return back to the mixtures list. And again, I select New Mixture Product and enter its name. I create and open. Again, I will customize the Euclid view, but this time I want to specify it is for a CLP Poison Center notification. Now I am in the main mixture dataset. You can see the table of contents on the side and the various sections that need to be completed. The first step is to specify the submission context in the draft dossier header. When I click on the draft dossier header, I can indicate a name for the dossier. I must also indicate a PCN number. This can be generated automatically using the circular arrows. I enter the countries of placement and the required languages. I am preparing a multi-market submission. Concerning the submission type, all submissions will be considered standard by default unless the limited, group or voluntary submission boxes have been checked. And finally, in this example, I'm preparing an initial notification. So I check the initial notification box and save the work. Now I'm ready to enter the data. In the main Mixture Identity and Legal Submitter section, you can check the legal entity details. This is particularly important if you have, for example, a third party working on your behalf. The legal entity details here at the mixture level must match with the legal entity of the logged-in user of the portal at the time of submission. In this section, I can also add a contact person for the notification. I can make a selection from the selected contact lists, or I can create a new one by entering the details of the contact type, the name of the person and the organization, as well as the phone number and address. I save the document and return to the mixture dataset to complete the next section. In the mixture composition, I can now add all of the relevant substance and mixture-in-mixture datasets for the final mixture. To do this, I first create an endpoint study record. I now want to add the component items. The first component, I select substance and indicate my perfume GPI. I provide a concentration, remembering to keep the units the same throughout the notification. I tick the GPI checkbox, and because it is a GPI, function has now become mandatory to provide. Of course, only perfumes and colorants are permitted for GPI components. I save, and then I perform the same actions for substance number 2. I select substance and substance number 2 from the list. I provide a concentration, and as it is not a GPI, I do not need to provide a function. I save, and now indicate the mixture-in-mixture component. In the name field, I make the selection of mixture product. Here you can see the MIM1 dataset that I created earlier. I need to enter the concentration. This time I will use a concentration range. I also include the operators and the unit. I've now added all of the components. I press save and return back to the main mixture data set to provide the information for the product. I create a new product information document. Here I can enter the trade name or multiple trade names. I now want to enter my own EUFI. I click on the blue EUFI hyperlink and select Create. I specify a new item, and in the ID field, I can add the EUFI that I generated previously. I close and save. In the additional information section, I include the color and physical state of the mixture. I create a new document and indicate that my mixture is a liquid that is yellow. Form and color intensity is not mandatory information, but again, can always be provided. To indicate the packaging, I can make a selection of either that the product is not packaged or create a new document and link to the packaging information. I create the packaging document and then indicate the type of packaging, for example, a bottle, and the size. It is possible to include packaging-related documents here, but it of course is not mandatory. I save and return back to make another document for an additional packaging type. I create and indicate the size. I now want to indicate the use types of my mixture. This can be single or multiple selections. In this case, I select consumer and professional. Next, I would like to indicate the main intended use, which is based on the European Product Categorization System. Of course, secondary uses can also be provided, but are not mandatory. I now need to indicate the relevant countries of market placement. If you recall from the dossier header, I selected Finland and Sweden. So now I go back and indicate the classification and labeling information. I create a new document and indicate the various hazard categories and statements. As an example, I will make the following selections. In the labeling section, I need to indicate the signal word, pictograms, plus hazard and precautionary statements. It is possible to use the new Calculate functionality. When you select Calculate, the labeling information is automatically pre-filled based on the information that was provided in the previous step. Of course, it is up to the notifier to ensure that this information is correct. I would also like to point out here that some additional information may be required as free text fields. This information must be provided in all of the relevant languages. I'll show you. When I click on the additional text, you can see that the free text fields for Finland and Sweden have been created. I enter the information in both languages. And save. Once I am satisfied that the information is correct, I can return back to the main mixture dataset. Now I would like to show you how to add the toxicological information into a new document. I create the new document and open the toxicological information fields. Again, I need to enter the information in both languages. As an example, I indicate the text required. I save and go back. Similarly, with the safety data sheet, it is also possible to include one voluntarily in the toxicological information section. You can upload single or multiple files and indicate the country and the language. But again, this is only voluntary information. Now, the last remaining document to create is for the pH. If for some reason the pH is not obtainable, then the box pH is not relevant can be checked. In this example, I would like to indicate a pH between 6 and 7. I must also indicate the solution concentration. I would also now like to show you the operators on the pH. I'm going to select the ECHA value for approximately. This will actually indicate or cause a validation rule failure. And I will show you in the next step how to overcome any failures. I press save. And now I have provided all the information for the final mixture product data set. In this final part of the demonstration, I will show how to validate the information I have entered. If you recall from part 3 in the demonstration, I purposefully provided information in the pH knowing it would trigger a business rule failure. Let's see how the validation works. Now, from the main mixture dataset page, I click on Validate. I check the dossier header to make sure the submission context is correct. And validate once more. And indeed, as expected, the validation assistant has triggered to fail the pH section because I indicated a qualifier, ECHA, which is not allowed. To correct the information, I click on the hyperlink and go to the section to remove the value. I save and revalidate. Now, no business rules have been triggered. So I can exit and proceed to dossier creation. Again, I check the dossier header and create the dossier. I can open now and view the dossier. By clicking on the expandable sections, I can see all of the information I have provided within the dossier. Back in the main mixture dataset, you can toggle between the listing of datasets and dossiers. Here you can see the one that I've just created now. Let's go inside the dossier and generate a PCN preview report. I click on the three dots and select Generate Report. I make the selection for PCN. And I can open the file or save it locally if I prefer. Here is the PCN preview report. So now in this final part of the demonstration, I'm going to show you how to prepare a simple notification update. Let's move back into our dataset view, and we want to update the dataset that I just created on the final mixture. I select Draft Dossier Header and I can edit accordingly. For example, I may wish to change the name so it is less confusing. As the composition remains the same, I do not need to change the PCN number. I now have to deselect Initial Notification and select that the submission is an update. I need to also provide a reason for the update. For this example, we'll include an additional product type. Sorry, an additional product packaging type. And save. Now I need to go into the area that I would like to update. Let's go back to packaging and create a new document. I will now indicate the new packaging and the size. And save. Once I'm satisfied with all of the changes that need to be made, I can go back and revalidate the information. Here you can see that no business rule failures were detected. I can exit this the section and now create the dossier. So, at this point, I would like to remind you that it is possible to submit your test dossier to our new submission testing environment. And you can find more details about that from the IT solution presentation, as I mentioned earlier. So that concludes this 4-part demonstration on preparing a Poison Center notification using the Dataset view mode. Thank you for your attention.